What the hell is long COVID? Chapter 11. The dreaded R word. If you're a real modern human, that's trademarked, by the way, when you read the word religion, you shifted uncomfortably in your seat and thought, why does he have to force religion into this? Can't we just keep this scientific? Should I just skim this part or skip it? Merkin. That's also trademarked. If there's any situation that screams loud and clear that we need to include religion in our discussion, it's the fact that someone just created a human-targeting bioweapon that was spread amongst the population, killing and injuring people. Just how many and exactly how remains to be seen. So, to answer that first question, yes, I think we need to force talking about religion, because the reason we're here is that we've pretended we can somehow even keep religion separate in the first place. We can't. To be human is to be religious. Every human, from Mother Teresa to Richard Dawkins to you, is religious. No matter how triumphantly atheist a person is, we constantly hear people saying things like, he stole my money, that's wrong, or so-and-so has a right to health care, or whatnot, implying in both instances that there is some higher law that is yet unenacted by any human government and beyond ourselves, to which everyone should be bound, whether they want to be or not. If legal equaled right, then we, by definition, would have absolutely zero basis ever to change any law. Despite their protestations, atheists are just as religious as anyone. They worship the most banal and pathetic deity imaginable, themselves. Like it or not, you are religious. You worship something. Unlike an animal, you can't help relating your actions to a transcendent purpose. Even if you intentionally ignore a transcendent purpose, you're still relating your actions to that transcendent purpose via your ignoring. Yikes. Yeah, but isn't it just a turnoff and irrelevant to push your religion here? One might say. It's not my religion. Jesus Christ is King and Creator of all, whether I believe it or not. But again, I decided to include this chapter because I think, if anything is a wake-up call that we need to stop ignoring the truth, it's the fact that we've created and unleashed weapons that have the potential to be far more devastating than any nuclear device ever could. While nastier than it first appears, COVID is still pretty weak sauce compared to what could happen. There are ultimately two reasons why I think it's important to mention that dreaded R word, religion. Number one is the fact that I would be giving you an inchoate solution by saying, here's what I did, and leaving out the deepest healing component of all. What does it matter if we heal our bodies temporarily? Someday we're going to die, whether it's COVID or something else. Not even transhumanist wishful thinking can sidestep that fact. Sorry, Elon. And second, especially if you're suffering, I want to testify to you that your suffering is not meaningless. That this isn't about eliminating suffering so you can get back to living life. This is life. Isaiah 51 speaks of Christ's coming as the suffering servant, and Jesus' life fulfills that word. God became man and then suffered and died? Why on earth? He certainly didn't have to suffer and die, but he did so to give us an example, to make suffering meaningful. COVID's grotesque and unnatural suffering is nose-grinding, but serves as an opportunity for us to meditate on suffering. How can this be transcendent? How can this be love? Yet somehow suffering is built in to love, wherever we find real love. A mother giving birth, couples getting married and committing to each other, selfless acts of service, anywhere. The pinnacle of a hero's journey is suffering. Without suffering, a hero's story would be a boring monologue. I'll leave it at that, but I think it's essential to mention that, because of what Jesus did for us, our suffering is not meaningless. Third and last, I have good news. You don't actually need to be uncomfortable to confront the R word, religion. It's a nonsensical knee-jerk reaction that's been trained into us by ideologues, but step back and think about it for a moment. What's so troubling and scary about committing to a search for truth? Shouldn't that be our starting point, anyways? Sure, it's difficult, but what are we? Lazy? Scared? Uncomfortable with the possibility of conviction and change? We traverse heaven and earth and train our butts off to run marathons and climb mountains. But truth, that's just too difficult. One might say, well, can't we all just get along? Something about wars of religion, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, we fight, and have continually fought, endless wars over money and power, and are 100% willing to put up our dukes about random political issues. Which one? I've forgotten already, onto the new thing. But somehow, wars of religion are the bogeyman. This is in part why it's difficult. The search for truth does involve a battle. If you commit to it, prepare to be bullied, mocked, and undermined. Correct. But it's no good saying, well, as long as we all get along. What on earth does that mean? Does getting along mean it's okay to cull people like livestock with bioweapons? Because apparently, that's the world we live in. Someone thinks that's okay. Here's a secret. There's no such thing as getting along without collectively honoring what is properly good, and, to the best of our abilities, collectively eliminating and converting what is subverting and misusing good things, also known as evil. From the Tower of Babel onwards, humans have deceived themselves ad nauseum by saying, if we just get along, as if that could magically escape the built-in reality of moral right and moral wrong. By all means, let's work together. Let's get along. But that doesn't mean we somehow absolve ourselves from any obligation to search for the truth. One might say, yeah, sure, every church is running around telling me that you should come to their church. How am I supposed to know which is true? Again, essentially what that statement boils down to is this. It's super complicated and it's hard, so forget it. Tell me again what you're doing that's more important than meaning itself, than happiness. Truth is the truth, whether we recognize it or not. On a natural level, we get immediate and instant results when we blow off truth. I'm too busy to worry about whether the bridge is out on the road ahead. I've got places to be. Zoom, zoom. So yes, we can talk about this without undermining the scientific dimension, because even science doesn't escape the inescapable reality of the moral order in the created universe. Modern science and the modern scientific method can tell us how fast a hammer is swinging or how many foot-pounds of energy it will have on impact. It cannot tell us whether or not swinging it at your annoying coworker's head is good or evil. Listen, think about it. If God created the world, and he did, then how on earth would it be possible that we could ever create a healthy and sustainable social order, civil, economic, familial, etc., that doesn't start from God's laws? God created health. He created order. He created you. It doesn't matter how many rules we invent or concoct, how many systems we create, how many towers of Babel we build. There's only one recipe for wholesomeness and for meaning. God's. All that is a somewhat windy but necessary prologue to contextualize what I want to say. If you're searching for healing, don't ignore spiritual healing. And by spiritual, I don't mean listening to Enya and drinking warm tea while doing nasally breathing exercises. I mean spiritually authoritative, no-holds-barred healing that prioritizes healing the part of you which is unseen, your soul. I said previously that I'm not recommending anything in this book. Well, this is the exception. I am recommending this. Go find a Roman Catholic priest, preferably the diocesan exorcist, and ask him if he'd be willing to meet and say some healing prayers with you. But maybe you say, I'm not a Catholic. That's fine. I'd still recommend finding a Catholic exorcist. You're fighting a spiritual battle, as well as a health battle, against the spirits of evil. I'm no spiritual ninja, but even I know from my limited experience that spiritual warfare is all about who holds the proper authority. Look, you don't have to be a Roman Catholic or even discuss the Catholic Church's apostolic authority to conclude that you should be talking to a Catholic priest. Just look at the enemy, the soldiers of Satan. Satanists ritualize a so-called black mass. Not a black sermon, not even a black Bible study. An upside-down Catholic mass, where they steal a Catholic host. To get straight to the point, if you want to cut to the chase, no matter what your personal beliefs, I'd recommend finding a Catholic priest to say healing prayers with you. Some might say, but there are bad Catholic priests, and bring up trauma and scandal. Trust me when I say that I've experienced more bad priests than anyone I know, in more dramatic ways than most. We don't have to speculate. We've known from the beginning that Judas has infiltrated the church. If a priest isn't willing to say healing prayers with you, don't be discouraged. Yes, he's shirking his duty and he'll be answerable, but you can't let that get you down. Find another priest. Be persistent. You need healing. Don't let a roadblock turn you back. And when you've found a priest you trust, ask him for healing prayers and ask him what to do next. Keep the momentum going. Don't leave it at that. Don't let this grinding suffering go to waste. Commit to connecting with God as best you know how, wherever you are. Learn to pray always. Insist on truth and nothing less. Be just as ruthless about healing your soul, well, even more so, as you are about healing your body. This suffering should be a constant reminder that someday we're all going to die, COVID or no COVID. Seek more than what the first pages of Google offer you. God created you, thus only God holds the final answer to fulfill you, and that's the healing that you're seeking, above and beyond mere bodily healing.